When I was about 5 or 6 years old, my mom and I lived with my grandparents, and my grandfather was convinced I was meant to be a lawyer. That boy could convince anyone of anything, he'd tell anybody that would listen. And I suppose he was right. I would talk to anybody about anything. Mostly, I think, just to hear myself talk. The subject didn't matter. It could have been something that happened at school that day, or what I had for supper last night, or the fact that I didn't like that my mom made me wear a coat to school when nobody else had to. If there was an ear pointed in my direction, I was most likely talking. But that didn't mean I had the first clue what I was talking about. After all, there's a reason that 6-year-olds don't lecture at seminary. Speaking from a place of power and from a place of authority are two vastly different things, and this isn't lost on Jesus' audience in Mark. They may not quite understand why, but they know something is different from the teaching they're used to hearing from the scribes. They recognize that what he says is a new teaching with authority. They've witnessed him performing an exorcism. So imagine being accustomed to hearing the dry, legalistic teaching of the scribes, and then hearing Jesus teach right after driving out a demon. You've made a long, hard journey, perhaps of some distance, to a temple on the Sabbath, preparing to hear a teaching which is likely dry and dusty and full of the law. You enter a temple, and there stands Jesus. You may not have seen him before, but you've likely heard about him. The scribes certainly have the power when it comes to religion at the time, but Jesus can do the things that he talks about. He teaches lessons which are engaged and full of calls to action. Mark doesn't make us privy to what Jesus is teaching in the temple on the Sabbath, but whatever it is, it's drastically different from anything that the people have heard or seen before. And Jesus backs up his words with action. We can only imagine what it is that he's talking about, caring for the least among us, for example. And those gathered around to hear him actually see him do exactly what it is that he's been talking about. He speaks as one with authority. But what is this authority, and why is it so revolutionary and compelling? What makes these folks gathered at the temple sit up and take notice? Was it the fact that Jesus performed a miracle by means of an exorcism? Well, certainly not to make light of what Jesus did, but many scholars discuss exorcisms in the Bible as being about healing sickness. And the biblical worlds of Jesus' time was full of healers of one type or another, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that folks had been seeing people made whole before this, though likely not in such dramatic fashion. No, to me, it seems most likely that the thing that knocked Jesus' assembled crowds off their feet was the revolutionary nature of his teachings. He took the law that bound the people of his day and he stood it on its head. He helped people to see that by loving and serving each other, they could love and serve God in a direct, tangible, and meaningful way. Visiting the prisoner, as is discussed in Matthew, allows God to be in the cell with the forgotten, and caring for the sick, well, that plays a vital role in the beauty of God's creation. And so it is that this authority that took everyone's breath away when they heard Jesus teach wasn't so much an authority they followed simply because he said to. They followed because it gave them a role to play that made a difference in a revolutionary way. And in that lay all the authority that he would ever expect to need. The people were astonished at his teaching, for he taught as one having authority, and not as the scribes.